Hello, this is Dr. Tech. I'm just pre-recording a little bit so that I don't have to use class time to talk about this stuff here. So welcome to the class. This is summer session of CISP310 Assembly Language Programming at ARC. So I'm going to just start with the syllabus. And the syllabus is now only available as an HTML document. Because I found out that when I export to a PDF, a lot of times there are complaints about the PDF not being accessible. But when I publish it as an HTML file, that doesn't happen very often. So that's why I only use HTML to publish my stuff now. Alright, so I'm going to skip a few items here and just kind of skip to the professor. My full name is Tak, last name is Aoyang. When you address me, I prefer you to address me by my name and not just prof or professor, okay? Because I do have a name. It's kind of like, when I address you, do you want me to address you as student, a student, some student? Probably not, right? Okay, so address me by my name. So you can just call me Tech, you can call me Professor Tech, you can call me Dr. Tech. All of those are acceptable and appropriate, at least in my class. All right, so moving on to section 5, presentation and delivery method. So this is a strange situation. Normally I teach only face-to-face classes, so now I'm teaching asynchronous mode. So that means we're going to have 4 meetings per week, face-to-face, well, over Discord, in a synchronous mode, which means it's not going to be, it will be recorded, but you need to be there as well. Okay, so you need, I will take attendance, in other words. And since everything is going to be recorded, so there will also be recording. I also write most, if not all, of the reading material for this class. And there will be some interactive activities during the lab time. So the lab time is also synchronous, which means it is also required, and the activities must be done during that time. Yes. So this way, we get things done during the allocated, time slot, and then you don't have to worry about, having to spend too much of your extra time, right? So that's, hopefully that works out for most people. But this is what you're signing up for: regular effective contact and communication policy. So basically, I have a 24-hour turnaround time during the during the weekdays, and then over the weekends is 48 hours of turnaround time. That applies when we have homework assignments due as well. So, people who try to contact me like right an hour before the due time of a homework assignment, they may not get a reply, okay, because of the 24-hour turnaround time. Just because I'm using Discord and just because I have Discord installed on my phone doesn't mean that I am going to answer questions all day long. So keep that in mind when you're doing your homework. There is a designated office hour every day, and I'm guaranteed to be interactive during that time. So if you need to ask me questions and you cannot wait for the 24-hour turnaround time, use the office hour. If you cannot make it to the office hour, you can also contact me to schedule for a time so I can actually talk to you over Discord. I don't mind doing that either. So there you go. Conduct policy. So a lot of this stuff usually applies to a face-to-face class, but most of these also apply to a online class, delivered over Discord. So distracting behavior would be like, flooding the text channel with all the non-related stuff, and sometimes I'm guilty of that too. So what I'll do is I'm going to set up a off-topic channel. So for all of you who feel bored during my lecture and you have to be there because it's synchronous, guess what? You can all goof off over to the off-topic channel and keep chatting away. Doesn't bother me at all, okay? As long as it is in the off-topic channel. But even if it's in the off-topic channel, some behaviors are still not tolerated. So intentional behavior causing confusion, fear, intimidation, or discomfort, those are still not um, tolerated, anywhere within the server and in any context of this class. Obviously, violent and or other dangerous or endangering behaviors are also not going to be tolerated. Section 8. So I'm moving kind of quickly because you can read the whole thing, from the class website. So Section 8 talks about the first day of class. Basically, it is mandatory. People who do not make it to the first day of class or orientation. Now, we don't really have an orientation. We do have a first day of class, which is today, the 7th of June. So those people will be dropped, basically. Accommodations, if you need DSPS accommodations, please contact the DSPS office at 916-484-8382 and talk to those people. And then excessive absences. So excessive absences boils down to 6% of the time the class is supposed to meet. And after doing all the math, it boils down to the third unexcused absence. So let me say that one more time. The third unexcused absence is considered excessive, and the result of excessive absence is being dropped. So there is that. So I will take roll. There are many different ways for me to take roll. The idea is I'm expecting people to be present during the synchronous lecture. So, and I'm also expecting people to do their lab during the designated lab hour. So I can collect, row data just by saying, I can be doing this, which I have done with many of my classes already. Is in the middle of a lecture, I'll just go like, let me create a row taking activity right now. And the word on the top of my mind is blah, okay? And then, people just have to go to that activity and type in the word, and press the enter key. It will take about 2 minutes at the most, and that's the way that I take roll. So that means, during the synchronous lecture, don't just turn on Discord, okay? Just having your presence in Discord doesn't count as present. Presence is counted by being able to participate the activity that I will be creating for role taking purposes. Okay, so that is pretty important because I don't want people to tell me, but I was on Discord the other day. Well, just having your name on Discord doesn't count as present. Okay, so there's that. All right, so let's take a look at what is excused. What kind of absences are excused? A student's own health-related absences are excused, but I will need to see a doctor's note in that case. This usually doesn't apply anymore, but I think athletic is up and running again. So if there is an official request from a coach, about an athletic event, and you are an athlete in that event, you can be excused. And any type of summon from the government will also be excused. So military service will be excused, jury duty will be excused. But once again, I will need a copy of the letter. You can block out certain sections that you do not think is applicable, that I do not need to know, but I do need to see your name and the organization, that the government organization that's doing the request. So everything else are pretty much unexcused. So that would include religious holidays, family occasions, job interviews, work-related issues, and so on. They are not excused by default. Okay, now I may, with an emphasis on may, as in a possibility, to consider some of these and go like, yeah, I can see that you have been attending classes for the past 5 weeks, okay, and there has not been any issues whatsoever. You turn in all the homework, and now you have a job interview, at about the same time as the classical. Like, yeah, I guess it's okay, not a problem. Okay, but that is up to me. Okay, so don't count on it. Late policy is essentially no late policy. In other words, things that are not turned in on time as in canvas time, is considered late and they will not be graded, or at least the grade won't count for your final grade. Sometimes people turn something in late or they could not finish a homework assignment, but they still want me to evaluate it, which is fine. I will do that. But that would not count for the final grade. Okay, so there's no late policy like, oh, if you're only 2 days late, I'll count 50% of it. If you're 4 days late, I'll count 25% of that. Nope, I don't do that. Okay, section 13 is particularly important. It is about academic integrity or dishonesty, depending on which way you look at it. So I define the dishonesty in a very broad way. It's kind of defined here, so you can read it if you want to kind of get into the details. So basically, it occurs when a student attempts or participates in any activity to attempt to show possession of a level of competency, knowledge, or skill beyond the level of the student. Okay, so there are a few things that are important here. So there's the intent, there's the attempt to show a higher level of competency, knowledge, or skill. Um, and that's kind of how I look at academic dishonesty. So I do not list the means, okay, because it is irrelevant. Okay, it is the intent, and also the objective that is important. So there's deception involved, and the deception is to show a competency that is higher or more than the person who is doing the activity. So there is that. And there's a whole bunch of stuff related to that, so you can read all that stuff here. Classroom behavior is kind of the same stuff that we talked about a little bit earlier, except this one addresses more of the usual stuff that goes on during a face-to-face class. So once again, if you guys want to chat about off-topic stuff, go to the off-topic channel, which I am gonna mute. Okay, so I won't get distracted by that. And anyone who doesn't want to get distracted can mute the off-topic channel as well. Interrupting is still possible because I let you guys use your voice if you want to. If you need to ask questions, most of the time people use the text channel, which is okay, but occasionally some people want to use their voice to ask questions as well, which is more efficient, and that's perfectly fine as well. So you just kind of have to wait until I'm done with a sentence, and then you can go ahead and say, but I do have a question or something like that. That's perfectly okay. Mobile devices obviously is not an issue. I suspect some of you may be using a mobile device on one side at least to participate in the class, so that's perfectly okay as well. Section 16 has to do with how to attend the synchronous lectures. Now, because everything is, well, okay, I'll try to record everything, but because it is supposed to be a synchronous class, just like a regular face-to-face class, don't count on everything being recorded. Okay, occasionally I do forget. Okay, if you want to make sure everything is recorded, then remind me at the beginning of a class. I do not mind getting reminded at the beginning of a class to record. On the other hand, for people who are late to the lecture, I do not really want to hear from those people asking the entire class, are we recording? Okay, because I will tell you guys a trick so that you can tell whether a lecture is being recorded or not. So use that method to check first before asking the entire class. Whew, okay, so if everything is being recorded, do you still need to be mindful in a class? Okay, or what are you supposed to do in a class when everything is being recorded? I would say pay attention, focus on the material and the concepts being discussed, and see if you have anything that you don't quite understand. or if you have any questions. Okay, so I really like my classes to be interactive, where people go like, okay, I'm not 100% sure I understand it, and then give me an example. Like in this example, with A causes B to happen, so those would be great questions to ask, okay, because it gives me a very finite and confined context where I can go like, yes, it is as you say, that's exactly what's going to happen. Or I would say, no, that's not exactly what's going to happen because it, blah, 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 blah. And as a result, this is going to happen instead of what you anticipated. But those are great questions to ask. And I like to be more interactive in my lectures. Um, Also, try to read ahead of my lectures. In fact, I am going to assume that you guys will read ahead of the lectures, okay? Because if you don't do that, it's going to be very difficult. I mean, this stuff in the material of this class uh, is not simple. Okay, it's not something you just memorize and you're done with it. You really have to understand the reasoning, the logic, the rationale, and you have to make sure that you analyze, the examples that I give in class in order to gain all that understanding. So read ahead of me. The term Moodle is out of date. It is Canvas now. Okay, so all the links on Canvas are useful. So read ahead of me. I just follow the order as listed on Canvas. Okay, so you just have to go to the next one, then the next one, then the next one. Typically, if you can read ahead by one entire module, that's great. Okay, so that would be kind of what I would like you guys to do. Section 17 is, I would guess, unnecessarily long. Um, So the bottom line of section 17 is really just saying that in order to succeed in my class, it is all about understanding the material. Okay, it's not about memorization, it's not about being able to repeat something that I did in class. So there'll be some debugging involved in some of the assessments. And last semester, interestingly, I got one person who said, who implied that it was not fair, that people have not learned how to debug in all the previous classes, and I'm using a faulty program and debugging as the way to ask a question. I'm sorry, that is really just one of the many ways I ask questions. Because debugging is not something that once you understand the material and I give you a faulty program, how you find the faults of that program is partly just pattern matching. Okay, okay, and part of it really boils down to how much that person understands the material. Okay, because if that person understands the material 100%, they can track down the program, and by a certain point, it goes like, I know this is supposed to do A, but I think the code is doing B instead, so there's a fault here, let me fix it, and I'll explain what it is. So I don't think it really requires a previous exposure of how to formally debug a program. And there's no such thing as how to formally debug a program. That just does not exist. Okay? But the emphasis here is I am going to use all kinds of ways to test whether people understand the material or not. So the focus is on the understanding of the material and the ability to dynamically apply the knowledge that you have learned in this class, which basically boils down to, guess what? Not just following the processes and the steps that I have talked about in class. This is not about being able to recite and repeat all the steps that I have done in class one by one. That is minimally helpful, okay? But it's not going to be sufficient, okay? It's being, what is going to be important is actually understanding the material and being able to apply that material in the assessments. That's kind of the bottom line of what section 17 is about. You can read the whole thing. I do encourage people to read it as much as possible. I know this is kind of boring and you have to read all of these words, okay? But I think it is important. Grading standard is also something that needs to be mentioned because I don't grade the same way as most other professors. So I grade kind of the same way as you rate a product on Amazon or some other websites. So when you see on Amazon a 5 star, that would be equivalent to an A in my class. A 4 star is kind of a B, a 3 star is kind of a C, a 2 star is kind of a D, and a 1 star is an F. Yes. So, and there are times where I would say, can I give like no stars whatsoever? Like, just in product rating, because you have to give at least 1 star. Yeah, there are occasions I would go like, can I give no star whatsoever? So that's kind of how I assign the grades. And I'm going to use GPA as a numerical value that I assign to um, rubrics, when I grade an assessment and or homework. So an A is worth 4 points, a B is worth 3 points, a C is 2 points, and so on. So these are the centers of the letter grades A, B, C, D, F. And because they are the centers, so that means if I need to draw a line between an A and a B, it's going to be halfway in between. Okay, so that's why 87.5% or more is an A. Between 62.5% and 87.5% is a B, and so on. So that's pretty much how I come up with a letter grade at the end of a class. Um, and in terms of activities, there are graded homework assignments. Basically, I mix up your graded homework assignments and also lab assignments. So all of those belong to one single category, and that's 20%. All the homework assignments, all the labs, they only add up to 20% of your final grade. And then there are 3 exams. The first exam, which is usually about 1/3 through the semester, is 20%. So one single exam is carries in the same weight as all of the homework assignments added together. And then the second exam is about 2/3 through the session. And because this is an 8-week session, so we are pretty compressed. So that means the first one is going to be somewhere between week 2 and 3, and then the second one is going to be somewhere around 5 and 6. Okay, so it's going to be pretty compressed. And then the final exam is our last day of lecture, and that's going to be 40% of your grade. Um, so once again, the exams carry most of the points of your final grade. The homework assignments are really designed to help you understand whether you are really getting the material or not. Um, and that's kind of the purpose of the homework assignments, which means working together on the homework assignments is not really a very good idea, because that will defeat the purpose of the homework assignments being trying to let you know whether you understand the material or not. The exams are well, I'm not going to say anything about the difficulty, because every single semester somebody's going to ask me, so is the next exam going to be difficult? And I go like, I would be the last person to answer that question, because I sometimes I don't know why, or whether it's difficult or not. And obviously it depends on the person. Okay, something that's easy for one person can be very difficult for the next person. So uh, so I try not to answer those questions. You can also do the ungraded assignments. In other words, at the end of a class or during a class, I would sometimes kind of out of nowhere, I would come up with an idea. Go like, maybe this would be an interesting assignment for you to do, and it's not going to be graded. So this is the problem. We want to solve it, and I'll let you guys spend some time to do it, and I'll talk about the solution in the next class. So once again, since it's not graded, it's not going to count to your final grade, which means to some people, there's no incentive to do it. Well, those people can choose not to do it. But I will tell you, the ungraded assignments are also important from the perspective of that is what I would consider as a way for you to exercise what you have learned in the class, to see whether you can apply the knowledge that you have learned so far to solve the problems. Okay, so I think those are important, even though they do not contribute to your final grade numerically. I think, in terms of, being able to at least let you understand how well you can apply the concepts, they are very, very useful. But once again, people can choose what they want to do with the ungraded assignments. Now, in case I'm not giving you enough of these ungraded assignments, you can always remind me and go like, Tag, you have not been giving us, ungraded assignments, for a while. We would like to have a chance to practice the kind of stuff that we have learned so far. So can you give us some, ungraded assignments so that we have some way to practice what we have learned? You're more than welcome to nudge me, to let me know that, oh yeah, that's right. I haven't really been giving you guys some, something to work on, other than the lab activities and the usual homework assignment. So there's that for the ungraded assignment. And then the rest is really the tentative schedule of topics with an emphasis on tentative. Okay, so we do go over a good portion of this stuff, not necessarily using the amount of time that is indicated here, but there's some correlation here. Anyway, that's kind of the end of the discussion of the syllabus, and the syllabus can be found if you go to the class website. It's the first item under course information. You might think that the video is over, right? Not quite, not quite, because I want to show you how to find all the videos, right? Remember I said a little bit earlier, how do we know Tech has started, streaming or recording to the lectures? This is how we do it. So I am going to start let's see here, private window. So this way I'm not signed in, so it resembles what you typically would see on your browser. I'm gonna have to resize the screen a little bit because I typically don't show the entire browser because it's just using up a lot of space that you don't need to. So we're gonna go to YouTube, and after the slash, type in some profs, SOMEPROFS, some professors. And that's my channel. And under the channel, you want to go to videos. And under videos, you will see all the things that are recorded. Okay, so this is how we can, this is how we can see whether there's a stream already active, because if there is one, it's going to be based on the date of the day. So today is June 7th, so it's going to be 2021-06-07, and then the class code is CISP310. You see a bunch of CISC331 because that class extended past the end of the spring semester, and that's why there were a few extra of those. But this would be typically what you see, for CISP310, basically a date code and CISP310. I also, I think, even if you have not signed in, you would also see the streaming sign. Okay, so when I start to stream, you will actually see the stream too. I'm just trying to check to see if there's a way for you to tell whether I have a live stream or not. I'm not sure. But you can always subscribe as well. Okay, now your subscription doesn't give me any money whatsoever. Okay, so the only reason why you might want to subscribe is only because you want to be notified when the class streaming has started. Okay, if you don't care about that, no need to subscribe. Doesn't buy you anything, doesn't buy me anything. Okay, there's no financial gain whatsoever, when you subscribe or not subscribe. So I'm gonna do a quick experiment here. I'm gonna start streaming, and we'll see how it shows up on this side. So give me a second here to set up the streaming. And the streaming is great because you can actually watch the stream on YouTube instead of over Discord. The only downside of using YouTube instead of Discord is the lag time is horrendous on YouTube. But the good thing is you can, everybody knows how to use YouTube, right? So that's kind of the good thing, good side of it. And I'm on the side here. I'm going to set up a live stream on YouTube. Just so that I can see what would show on this side, when people are keeping an eye on my channel. So the first thing is I need to change the name, the title, because otherwise it's going to use the title of the last class that I taught, which is going to be very confusing. Alright, so there you go. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to OBS and start streaming as when I'm still recording, so it's actually doing both at the same time. And the stream is up on YouTube's side. And now if I refresh this side, let's see whether it will reflect that I have a live stream. Yes, indeed. Alright, so if I click on this, it should, when I'm still recording, so it's actually doing both at the same time. And the stream is up on YouTube. Yeah, that's kind of a time loop thing that I usually throw myself into. Anyhow, so it's proof that it works. I'm gonna stop the stream right away because otherwise the 661 subscribers that I have might get a little bit confused of what is this about. Yep, it's just a test. Just a test. I'm gonna stop that stream. Alright, so there is that. Let me see, did I forget something? Probably not. Probably not much. So I want you guys to watch this. Well, since you are already here, you have already watched the whole thing. So I'm gonna see you guys in class today. Thank you.